So Jerome Powell had a interview on 60 Minutes where he talked about how the fiscal path that the United States is on is unsustainable, right? Now, if you're watching this video, that's like duh, right? Like obviously we all know that. The fact that we have $34 trillion of debt in this country and the government's inflating the dollar, making things more expensive. It's just a path that you can't continue to go on. But obviously the government's going to keep doing what they're doing. Why? Because it's easy to print, it's easy to spend other people's money, right? When it's other people's money, you can just print that, you can just print it, spend it without consequences. But when it's your money, then you're like, oh, hold on, you got to be a little bit more fiscally responsible. But when spending other people's money, you don't have to worry about the consequences. The people have to deal with that, right? Us, we have to buy things, we have to use the dollar, we have to buy things that we need in order to sustain our lives, and it's making it more difficult for a lot of us. But when you hear Jerome Powell in his interview and he continues to talk like this, like, yeah, we get it, we understand it. He's trying to manage this whole, obviously, when interest rates to make sure that we don't go into a recession. But if you're someone that's watching this video now, then you understand. You have friends, you have family, you have people that that are struggling when it comes to buying the things that they need in everyday life, right? Everyone is struggling when it comes to housing, groceries, everything. Like people are struggling when it comes to just basic necessities. Okay, so whether they want to say it's a recession or not, people feel it. People are struggling to make payments, to make things just to get by when it comes to their finances. Some of it is on their own doing, because some people, when it comes to their credit cards, loan debt, they're putting themselves in that situation. Okay, but for a lot of people just trying to get by, it's just hard to make to get by. A lot of people living paycheck to paycheck. So for a lot of people, it's just a struggle. But hear him on the make this statement where he says unsustainable. We all know that, we all feel it, and it's just amazing that people can easily just spend money when it's not their own, and government continue to do what they do regardless of what's going on. And they have the nerve to say that the economy is doing fine. Like we all know the economy is not doing fine. Okay, regardless of what they say in the media, people are not feeling fine. People are struggling. So it's just crazy. So here's this article. Let's see what he has to say in this article. It says the power of the U.S. Is on an unsustainable fiscal path, right? So it says Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell said that the U.S. Is on an unsustainable fiscal path in our 60-minute interview. The U.S. federal government is on an unsustainable fiscal path, and that just means that the debt is growing faster than the economy. So it is unsustainable. I don't think that it's all that controversial, Powell said, when asked if the national debt is a danger to the economy. I think we all agree. The U.S. national debt topped $34 trillion for the first time ever in early January, just over 3 months after surpassing the $33 trillion mark, according to the data released by the U.S. Treasury. So so in January they topped $34 trillion. A month before that they were at $33 trillion. So they're just printing the money just like that, like so easily. Like they don't even care. Like it's almost like they're doing it intentionally. Like they don't give two damns about how much debt it is. They're just going to continue to print it and see where it goes, and then they're going to say, hey, don't worry, guys, everything is fine in the economy. So it says Congress has punted on spending deadlines 3 times since the end of September as it grapples with how to fund the government amid tensions about the ballooning national debt. Under the latest stopgap measure passed in January, funding for our federal agencies will expire on March 1st. Funding the rest of the government is set to run out on March 8th. I'm sure they'll figure out how to get that passed. So President Biden and House Republicans faced off on a borrowing limit last spring, ultimately averting disaster days before the U.S. was set to default. But Fitch Ratings downgraded the U.S. credit rating from AAA to AA+ in August, citing that the increased burden on the national debt and repeated partisan standoffs over the debt limit. As we should be downgraded, because think about it, man. If just in your own household, right? If you operated the way the government did, you would find yourself bankrupt, losing your home, all types of stuff, right? Because if you're spending your credit card debt the way you do, the banks are gonna be like, all right, we're gonna downgrade your credit score is gonna take a hit, and if you're not making these payments, we're gonna send you to collections and take whatever you got, right? We can't, as individuals, as households, we cannot operate the same way the government does, right? Because the government can just print money. Us, we can print money to an extent, right? We have our credit card, whatever that limit is, we spend it, and that's it. The banks are not going to increase our limit. For the government, they can continue to print and then continue to expand their budget and then continue to print more without consequences, right? So obviously they have a huge, a longer leash than we do. But it's weird because just as a household, as individuals, we can't operate the same way, and we understand that. So it says, despite the Fed's chair's long-term worries about the national debt, he said members of the central bank rate settling panel believe the economy is in a good place. Yeah, right. Said the economy has been growing quickly, clocking in at an annual rate of 3.3% during the fourth quarter of 2023, according to the latest data released by the Commerce Department of Bureau of Economic Analysis. Inflation has also fallen drastically from its 9% peak in summer 2002 to 3.4% in December, according to the latest Consumer Price Index. The Fed hiked interest rates from near zero in March 2022 to a range of 5.25. They have a rate steady, subsequently. All right, what the hell just happened? All right, so even though the interest rates have gone down, we all understand that things today are more expensive than they were a year ago. So even though the rate of the inflation has gone down, we know things are more expensive today than they were, a year ago. So even though we understand the pain that we're going, things are more expensive today, and that's a fact. All right, so it's the top Fed officials have signaled rate cuts on the horizon to 2024, but declined to cut rates for the following in January meeting last Wednesday. As expected, what was last expected was Powell suggesting that March rate cuts were off the table at the press conference following the announcement, a position he doubled down on during a 60-minute interview. I would say, and I did say yesterday, that I think it's not likely that this committee will reach that level of confidence in time for the March meeting, which is in 7 weeks. The kind of things that would make us want to move sooner will be if we saw weakness in the labor market, or if we saw inflation really pervasively coming down. So what he's talking about is like he wants to see the unemployment rate go up, right? He wants to see more people being laid off, people out of jobs, because the more people that are working, the more money people have, the more they have the opportunity to buy things, right? The more in-demand products and services will be, and that's going to create more inflation. So he needs people to obviously lose their jobs. He's not going to say that, but he needs more people to lose their jobs. So therefore, the demand of the market can go down, and obviously inflation rate can hit that 2% mark that he's looking for. But of course, as a Fed, he can't say that, but that's exactly what he needs to happen. So, and that's just sad that people have to lose their jobs in order to get to where he needs the inflation rate needs to be. So he says, all right, so Powell and the Fed have taken heat from both sides of the political spectrum for their decision to keep interest rates at their highest level in more than 2 decades. Former President Trump accused Powell of being political and suggested that the Republican appointee would cut rates to help Democrats during the upcoming election during a Fox Business interview. So obviously there is a election year. So, during election time, that's when things are going to get a little messy. You're going to get a little crazy. You can't really trust the things that you see, because we understand that during election years, a lot of things are going to be manipulated, right? The current administration wants things to be as rosy as possible so they can get reelected. So there's going to be a lot of manipulation. Even though they won't say that, we understand that in the background, even though we can't see it, there's going to be a lot of manipulation in terms of media, when it comes to numbers, data. There's going to be, we expect there to be a lot of manipulation. So it's hard to really trust everything that you see, but you do your best to to deal with the information that you're given. So it says, as Fed weighs its next steps in the new year, we urge you to consider the effects of your interest rate decisions on the housing market and to reverse the troubling rate hikes that put affordable housing out of reach for many. So but Powell pushed back on the implication that politics would play a role in the Fed decision to cut interest rates in the coming months. We do not consider politics in our decision. We never do and never will, Powell said. Integrity is priceless, and at the end, that's all you have to have, right? We all know that's nonsense, right? We all know that politics plays a heavy factor in a lot of decisions, even though we can't prove it, but we understand that during election time, there's going to be a lot of manipulation. So that's what Jerome Powell has to say. I mean, it's not something that we don't understand. We understand that as you continue to rack up the debt, you continue to print the dollars, it's going to it's unsustainable. You can't keep going the way that we're doing. Even though the government has an unlimited purse, I mean, they can print money as much as they can. Eventually, it taps out, and eventually you can only print so much money until the economy taps out and says, all right, enough is enough, right? Just like individuals have to finally come to a conclusion, that reality that we can't continue to spend money that we don't have. So who knows when that will happen? Like I said, it's an election year, so we don't know when that recession everyone's waiting for is going to happen. But it's you can see it from Jerome Powell's mouth. It's unsustainable, and it's something that we all know. So let me know what your thoughts are. Make sure to leave a comment down below, hit the like button, share, and if you haven't done so already, make sure to subscribe. All right, so you guys take care and have a good one. Later.